Well, I don't know if you've watched any of these before, but that's exactly what this is. It's literally just nice and chilled out. There's nothing contentious about it.
Having the guys on from 44 Teeth means it's definitely chilled out.
Yeah. Did you see any of that? Have you seen any of that one?
I haven't seen it, but I know them both. So, I know exactly what kind of went off.
that sort of sums it up, really. Yeah, it was good. Although Baron wasn't drinking.
Al
was, but Baron wasn't.
First.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the format here is I have a bit of a social media, not a massive following, but I've got a bit of a YouTube thing and social media and stuff. And I chuck out on that to say who the next guest is, and people submit their questions, and we basically just run through them. You won't be surprised to hear there is a shed load of questions come in. Normally these things drag on for hours, but I appreciate, you've got your own time there, so we'll try and be as concise as possible. But I've gone through most of them. Normally I don't bother going through the questions beforehand. It's just a bit of a suck it and see, but I thought today I better go through them. Cutting out all the duplicate questions, we've got 65 at the moment,
right.
So we'll do what we can. All right, mate. Well, first off, thank you so much for coming on board.
You're welcome. No worries at all.
Really do appreciate you taking the time out your evening. So, folks, Peter Hickman. Right then, Peter, I think we may as well just crack on straight away into the questions, and then I'm sure there's loads of things that people want to ask that I want to ask, and we'll just develop as we go. Is that okay?
Sure. Crack on. Go
Beautiful.
For it.
Right. Awesome. Right, I'll start as always with the Patreon questions. Pete English. Now, Pete's got a bit of a reputation over the last few podcasts. I don't know if he smokes something, but his questions can be quite obscure.
I like him already.
Yeah. If you found yourself in the fortunate position not needing to worry about money or bills and never needing to work again, how would you spend your day?
Riding bikes.
Awesome.
100%, yeah. I would have.
Is there anything else?
I would build a track that has a bit of everything, or I'd buy the Isle of Man and then make my own route.
Buy the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah, can't complain with that, can you? Riding bikes every day.
Exactly.
Right, Andy Bowen, motorbike tourer. He said he watched you at the 2015 TT when you were the best newcomer. Gave you a big thumbs up in the pits, and you look genuinely humbled. So, as far as he's concerned, you're a top bloke. Can I ask you, who was your hero growing up, and why did you want to race roads, as you're an epic track rider?
Well, 2014 was my first year, so if you saw me in 15, it was my second year.
Ah, right. Okay.
But that's just details. Don't worry about that. Yeah, I never really looked at the roads for a long time, actually. I'm a short circuit racer, really. And it was never really on my radar. Obviously, I listened to it. Obviously, I followed it because, if you're into bikes, you follow the Isle of Man TT regardless. So, whether you love it or hate it, you follow it. So, I watched it all the time. I was a big McGuinness fan. I still am a big McGuinness fan, to be quite honest. I love his laid-back attitude. I'm very similar anyway in my kind of mannerisms. I love the way he rides the bike. He's very economical. He's very, very smooth, and that to me, I've always enjoyed them sort of riders, even from watching all the Grand Prix riders. When you look at somebody like Lorenzo or somebody like that, they're just always inch perfect. McGuinness always reminds me of that kind of person. So, I've always enjoyed watching John ride bikes around the Isle of Man TT, and then eventually it turned out that I ended up going. It wasn't really on my radar. I went as a 1-year-old kid. It was the first time I went over. Obviously, I can't remember that, but I was there. Yeah. And then I went to watch in 2013, just to literally go and experience it as an adult. I was 26 then, and I've been riding in Superbike for nearly 10 years. I'd been riding big bikes for a long time, and just wanted to just go and experience it for myself. And if anyone's listening to this that hasn't been to the TT, you need to go. It's
phenomenal, isn't it?
There's just nothing, you can't describe what it feels like to be there. So get yourself down there, go and have a look, and enjoy it. You'll have an epic time. But I never got a chance to kind of scope the place out. I just kind of went with it. I was only there for 4 days, and I just absolutely loved it. And I think off the back of that, I kind of decided, actually, I love this atmosphere. I love what it's doing. So I'm going to have a go.
So it was 14, literally the first time you'd ever, never mind raced, but ridden. around the circuit, or had you given it a bash?
I did a couple of laps in 13 while I was there. I borrowed a mate's bike, Fireblade. We ended up being a sponsor, good friends as well. Chris and Sue Conliffe. They lent me their Fireblade for me to go and have a little black round, and I borrowed a little 650 as well and had a little black round on that. So I really enjoyed myself. In my only there for 4 days, but really enjoyed it. So
I bet.
And off the back of that, that's where I guess it sparked something in me to say, why not come and have a bash? So that's what I did.
Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah, 2014 was the first year I ever went, and then I was supposed to go this year, but obviously,
that didn't happen.
So was I.
Yeah. So I'm on the list for next year. Hopefully, if we can get ferry space, I'll be there with a beer in hand, cheering you on. Dave Hemmings, Peter, what's been the best moment in your racing career so far?
There's been a few, to be fair. I've been quite lucky. I've been able to go and race in a lot of the different parts of the world, shall I say. What's the best moment? TT 2018 is obviously going to kind of top everything, I guess, to be able to actually win the senior, and doing it in the style that it kind of happened, such a close race, behind all race, and just pipping Dean right at the end, and there was a lot kind of riding on it, then getting the lap record at the same time. I guess there was a lot of things that kind of fell into place. So that for sure is definitely one of the highlights. Racing the World Superbike last year, even at for BMW, that was quite a nice highlight for me. And my first time back in 2012 with Suzuki, when I got to race the World Superbike there as well, that was that is also one of my highlights. So there's too many. Winning my first BSB race at Cadwell Park on Simon Andrews' bike. I took over his ride after he unfortunately lost his life, obviously, and there's been some fitting moments in my career, and that's definitely one of the highlights as well. So there's too many to list, is my honest answer. But
I bet.
In racing we have so many kind of highs and peaks and troughs all the time, and I've been fortunate enough to have quite a lot of peaks. So it's it's good.
I watched the onboard actually of that winning lap from the 18 TT today. And I didn't realise you had so many back markers in the way, so it could have even been quicker.
Yeah, there's about 9 back markers, so and a couple of them, really kind of slowed me up. So but it is what it is. Dean also had a load of back markers, so it kind of swings and roundabouts, doesn't it, for everyone? So that's my emails going off. But it's you just got to deal with it the best you can at the time. I'm not a very impatient person in particular, or at least not when racing's concerned, and you can't really be with the TT anyway, so I was just kind of picked my moments, was as patient as I could be, and just kind of didn't dwell on it too much. I knew that it were costing me time, but rather than thinking about all the time I just lost, I was just trying to get the maximum out of the bike and myself on that last lap.
It's just on every time I watch an onboard, you just can't comprehend. I don't know how you do it. I just can't comprehend being at that speed. Like, I used to ride Gix 1000, and I've maxed it out on a massive long straight for like a nanosecond. But to do those speeds for 30 odd miles, like lap after lap, I don't know how you do it. I just no idea.
Yeah, I mean the majority of the laps like over 160 miles an hour. So it's I would say 95% of the lap is over 160 miles an hour.
That's insane.
From the start line to Ramsey on that lap in particular, my average to Ramsey, which is what 22 miles in or something like that to Ramsey hairpin. My average to there from the start line was 148 miles an hour. That is
just. How do you get those bollocks in your trousers? I don't know how they fit in your leathers. I was chatting. Who's I chatting with? I was chatting with Al Fagan on the podcast, and he forgot he did the TT, to be honest. We had this question, what's your highlight? And he was talking about some KTM race that he did. And I said, what about the TT? And he was like, oh, shit, yeah, I forgot about that. But I was chatting to him and saying that I've only ever done like one at the TT, they let you go and do you can do the laps, but you've got to stick to the speed restrictions in certain places till you get onto the mountain. And I remember doing the back section before you come up, I think it's before you come up to Ramsey, and it's only a 50 mile an hour speed limit. I couldn't believe how bumpy it was at 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And you're careering down there at like 160, 180. It's just, how'd you stay on the bike?
By hanging on.
Yeah. The Gorilla Biker. Well, there we go. It's exactly what he's asked. How the hell do you do it? To be that consistent and fast year on year is incredible. Yeah, he just says, hats off, you're a legend of the sport.
Thank you very much. I'll try.
Dale Hawks, how the hell do you know every twist and turn on the course? It's hard enough just watching the on-bike laps with no fear of injuries. Yeah, how do you memorise such a big course?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that, actually. It's something I've never really even thought of twice. It's not, the only way I can kind of describe it, and to other races even, even a lot of the British Superbike riders, I don't know how you remember everything. And I said, well, all right, Knockhill, turn 3, what gear are you in, where's your braking mark? And they can tell me. And I said, all right, now Donington, turn 4, what gear are you in, where's your braking mark? And they can tell me. So I'm like, well, it's only the same as putting all the BSB circuits together, but you just got to do it one after another.
Sounds simple.
Yeah, from a racing point of view, and they kind of go, oh yeah, I kind of understand that because they know all the circuits inside out. You've just got to put it all together. I never struggled necessarily with learning it. I'm normally quite a fast learner anyway. By the end of my first year, I was more than comfortable with it. Hence why I did 129 mile an hour in my first year, on a stocker. So I wasn't, and I still felt like I had loads more in me. I'd not really even ridden in my first year. Before I got to the TT, I only did the Northwest. I didn't have a British Superbike ride, so I was actually quite rusty when I went to the TT, and I didn't feel like I was particularly on my game at all. So, if I'd been riding BSB as I had been previously, for sure I think I'd have been faster. So, but I just fell into it. I did a load of laps to learn it, to understand it beforehand in a car, just going round and round and round for about 4 months previous. We're talking kind of 70 laps just in a car, which is 70 hours worth of driving round and round. It takes an hour in a car on normal open roads. So, I put the effort in, and by putting the effort in, you reap the rewards. So, I guess that's it.
Fair play to you. Steve Foster. My question is, how is Hickey keeping himself race ready? And will the rest of this season, as in 2020 season, is it effectively just a major sort of testing for the 2021 season? Or do you think there's going to be some racing towards the end of the season?
I certainly hope there's going to be some racing. I mean, I guess nobody's actually got the answer, really. Not even the BSB organisers haven't got the answer. It's down to the government. But then the government really haven't got the answers either, because it changes day by day and they've got to make the decision on the data that they have on that day. So, the plan 100% is to go racing. When and where and how, I don't know. It's not up to me, but fingers crossed, by kind of July or August, I would hope that we'll be racing and we'll have, some sort of race series in the UK for BSB. The organisers will do everything they can to make sure it happens. They do a fantastic job. So I'm pretty sure one way or another they'll make it work.
Yeah, I heard in the pipeline that certainly MotoGP, they were hoping to have some sort of racing start by August, but I mean, how are they going to do the social distancing and who knows?
Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah, it's tough, and how do they allow spectators in, or do they not allow spectators in? Or but then Grand Prix and World Superbike is different to BSB again. Their platform's completely different. So whereas BSB relies heavily on spectators and gate fees and all the rest of it, GP and World Superbike not so much. It's different commercially. It's more about TV figures and stuff like that. So it's a different concept that they have to work with to what the BSB series has to work with.
Absolutely, yeah. And at the end of the day, everyone's got to make money, don't they? Otherwise, it won't happen, will it? So
otherwise, the wheels don't keep turning.
Exactly, yeah. Nick Turnbull. Similar to Steve Foster, what fitness regime do you follow, if at all, under normal circumstances? So obviously tonight you've been out on your push bike, haven't you? So...
Yeah, I've actually been on my mountain bike, but I'm not one for being massively. I don't like the gym. I wouldn't say I particularly hate exercising, but I wouldn't say I like it either. If it's doing a sport, I would prefer to do a sport, or I would prefer to go and ride bikes than I would, go to the gym and work out in the mirror. That's not kind of my thing at all.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is, a lot of it's in people's heads. They go to the gym and they make themselves as fit as possible because mentally that works for them. Whereas I'm kind of the opposite. I'm a bit more laid back about the whole situation. So, I kind of, for me, I understand that a lot of it's in your head, not in how fit you are. So, apart from, I do a bit, obviously I have to do some, you've got to have some level of fitness. I don't say you don't have to be an athlete by any means. The TT in particular actually is not very physical at all. I don't think for me anyway. It's different because I'm taller.
Right.
A lot of it's just fast, flat out and straight lines or big fast corners. They don't take a lot of effort physically. BSB is the opposite. It's so on the limit and so all the time, and there's no rest at all. That it's really, really physical. So for me, I find BSB harder than what I find right around the TT.
Do you? They're that different, right? Yeah, because Nick asks, he said, how does McGuinness do it? Because he's got this reputation that he just doesn't train.
It's a different type of style. It's a lot. TT is a lot about the mental state and getting yourself in the right rhythm, and just there's a lot to be said for knowledge at the TT.
Yeah.
As much as anything else, obviously you're going to need some raw speed, but until you know where you're going, knowledge counts for a lot, which is why you see a lot of the very experienced riders at the front all the time. People like McGuinness, people like Bruce Anstey, or even Michael Dunlop now. He's been going for a long, long time. He's got a lot, although he's quite young in age, he's been there since he was a kid. So, he's got so much experience that he can just fall back on. And that's why you normally find when there's been a really bad practice week or something, it's them more experienced riders that tend to be then faster for the races because they've got all that experience and knowledge to fall back on.
Yeah, gotcha. Haggis, Peter, which qualities do you need to have that makes the difference between being a good racer and a first-class one?
Well, mental strength, I think that's definitely one thing. I don't know is the honest answer. It's racing's tough. It's tough for a number of different reasons. You need a really good, strong team around you, and that's really hard to find.
Right.
So need a big enough wallet to be able to do it, especially at the start. But even I'm in a fortunate position now that I'm in a really strong team. Smiths is as a racing team, as obviously a company as well. So it has a very strong background, shall we say, that it can fall back on as and when it needs to. So of course we need sponsors, but the company is a big company anyway. So that certainly makes a massive difference to everything. You just that pressure is almost not as bad. When I raced my own team in Superbike in 2009, 2010, it was me and my dad and a couple of mates out of my dad's shed. Very different scenario. If I cartwheeled that bike down the road, it was
going to have a massive impact.
It was going to have a huge impact. Now that's not to say obviously it doesn't have an impact on Smiths. Of course it does. The bike's worth nearly $100,000, and you go cartwheeling it over the fence, it's going to hurt somebody. So but it's definitely being in a big team like that. It takes the pressure off being a rider anyway, for sure.
Cool.
And it takes a lot to be able to get to that position, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So so many variables. It's not just like being a runner or a 100-meter sprinter or something like that, where it's just down to you.
Yeah.
Racing isn't just down to the rider, although the rider is what people see or mainly look at. It's not just the rider, it's the bike, it's the team, it's what suspension.
It's the whole package.
It's how you've managed to all gel together and build this bike into one and make it how you feel it needs to be and put it into that place. So it's not as clear cut, it's not as black and white as a lot of other sports can be.
Okay. And how do you think, like racing, do you think racing has changed you? Has it brought any qualities to you that perhaps you didn't have before?
Yeah, I mean, I never have problems speaking like this with the majority of people. In fact, pretty much anyone, I'll talk to anyone all day, no problem at all. Yes. And a lot of people don't, and even a lot of riders don't particularly like that. But I think because I've been around it from being a kid, I think socially in particular, I'm quite receptible to talking to pretty much anyone, and I don't have a problem with it. So, and I think in day-to-day life, a lot of people do have problems with that, or problems with standing up in front of a group of people of 200, 300, 400 people or more and talking either about yourself or about a subject. I don't have that problem. I don't have that. I've never had that fear. I don't have a problem with it at all. Whereas a lot of people do, and I never.
Yeah, it freaks a lot of folk out, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've never even thought about it twice. So to me, I just kind of go, "Oh, someone's asked me to do that, I'll do it." It's not an issue. But I think that's all because of the racing and the environment that I've been brought up in.
Yeah, because your dad raced, didn't he? Your dad was he a TT racer as well?
He did TT. Yeah, he won a Manx TT in '77, 250 Manx. But he did also race at the main TT as well. He only had a short career, but got to Grand Prix, so he was fast. Back in the proper Grand Prix days where you can go and buy a Grand Prix bike and race it yourself. He actually, he did 250s and 750s and all sorts of stuff. So he was fast. And then he had a bad accident in '79, and then he didn't come out of hospital until '81. So he was in hospital for a long, 18 months. So and then became a mechanic. So he never raced again. So he became an engineer and development engineer and mechanic, and I grew up around it because of that. So he was mechanic in Grand Prix and also British Superbike at the time when I was a kid. So I got to see quite.
How does he feel about you doing the road racing now?
I don't think he particularly liked it.
Does he not?
No, him or my mum, although actually they come to the Isle of Man, they love the Isle of Man. They actually spend about 4 weeks there over the TT. They turn up a week early and leave a week late just because they enjoy it so much. They love the island, they love the people, and they try and soak in as much atmosphere as possible. So, and I think it probably takes them a week to get over the previous 2 weeks, which is probably why they stay the extra week.
It's quite boozy, isn't it? It's quite a social place.
Yeah, that, and I think they don't sleep for 2 weeks pretty much, but they need a week to recover maybe.
Yeah, as a parent, certainly, your mom, she must struggle with that. Yeah.
Yeah, she does, but she's not too bad to be fair. She does all right. All right.
John Jay, what's been your biggest obstacle getting onto the podium in your racing career to date?
Biggest obstacle, I kind of touched on it already, is getting on the right bike and in the right team. To be honest, the British Superbike Championship now is as strong I think it's ever been, and for all the right reasons. The series organisers have really upped their by leveling the playing field. So that's the best way of saying it. From 2012 onwards, where they kind of made everyone go to Motec, no one's allowed electronics. It's really leveled the playing field, and it means that a privateer team now can compete at the front. Look at what Jake Dixon did with the RAF team. Competing against the factory team, if you like, if you can call it a factory team. There's not really any factory teams now, apart from maybe Honda. But again, the rules dictate that there isn't really any factory bikes anyway, because everyone's got what everyone else has got. Of course, there's always going to be an element with who's got the most amount of money. There always is with racing, but a privateer team like the RAF team can actually compete at the front and can win British Superbike Championship. So when I was racing, I went to 2006 was my first year in British Superbike. That's how long I've been racing big bikes. I was only 18 in my first race. But back then there was 3 factory Hondas on the grid for a start. Well, that was the podium done. There was 2 factory GSE Ducatis, so that's the top 5 done. Then you got 2 factory Suzuki. There were proper factory bits of kit. There were. It
was as cut and dried as that, was it? It's just you could not compete.
There was no way that you were going to get anywhere near them. Like even as late as 2009, when I was running out of the shed with my dad, we did the whole year on just over 30 grand. My kit, ECU and wiring loom was 700 quid. For the wiring loom and the ECU, 700 quid. Tamiya's ECU and wiring loom was $250,000.
Oh my God, seriously?
So that's the kind of difference that you were looking at the time, with the Morelli systems and the people it needed to run it. They were looking at 250 grand against my 700 quid. So you're never going to, you're just not going to beat it. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
Which is why the rules changed and why Stuart Higgs and MSV did what they did. And whether you like it or not, the championship's much better for it, and it means that everybody can compete properly.
So, like nowadays, then, now that the playing field's been levelled somewhat, obviously you can't say, can you? Because it'll be your little secret. But what sort of things would you work on to help you improve on, above everybody else? Is it things like fitness, knowledge of the track, just testing? Yeah,
testing to a point. Knowledge of tracks, pretty much we're all as much of a muchness. I mean, look at Scott Redding. He didn't know half. He didn't know 99% of the tracks, apart from Donington. He didn't know any. And he managed to win the championship. All right, he was on a strong bike. We all know that, but he still had to ride it, and he still beat his teammate who knows the circuits, knows the tyres. Scott didn't. So I don't think you necessarily need to know the circuit. Any professional rider will learn a circuit within kind of 5 or 6 laps, no problem at all. And most of us will have a good kind of general idea of where we're going to brake, what gear we're going to be in, and what line we're going to be on before we've even ridden it. Just by walking it, you can kind of, once you've got some good experience behind you, can kind of understand what kind of corner each corner is going to be, right. So you kind of know where you're going to be at. So within a session, you're more than fast enough. And Scott proved that last year. He was a class act. He really, even the real difficult circuits like Alton Park. He finished top 6 and the first time round there. That is some going. That's really, really good. So anyone who's a professional like that can learn tracks very, very quickly and easily. So I wouldn't say it's that. It's more of gelling with your team correctly, giving them the correct information, and then being able to use that correct information to set the bike exactly how you want it to feel. Right. And a lot of that, although we're talking about no electronics, so we've got no traction control, we've got no anti-wheelie control or anything like that, no slide controls, no launch controls, there's nothing like that. We do have the capability, as all the bikes have now, fly-by-wire. So what we do with our wrists doesn't necessarily have to be happening at the throttle bodies. So because all we're doing is opening a servo, the servo tells the ECU what I've asked for, and then the ECU tells the throttle bodies what to open. So we can make tables per gear and based on revs of how to open the throttle. So I can come out of a corner at, say, 9,000 RPM, and I can give it 100% in third gear. But if we've told it that in third gear at 9,000 RPM, I can't have 100%, the bike won't give me 100%. It will give me whatever we've told it to. And then as the revs pick up, it'll allow the throttle bodies to open more and more and more. On the BMW, for example, as well, we also have split throttle bodies. So bank 1 and bank 2. So you've got 4 throttle bodies. You've got 2 and 2. We can open 2 and leave the other 2 closed if we want. So we can run like a 500, which is why if you listen, especially to the BMWs, when we first crack the throttle, they sound like they're running on 2. Because they are running on 2.
They are, yeah.
So we can soften how the engine feels as we come off the corner, but it's kind of not basic, but basic. It's done on my throttle, what I've asked for, against engine revs and gear only. It's nothing to do with lean angles. It's nothing to do with knowing where it is on the circuit or anything like that. It's a preset graph or table that we have to generate with our electronics guys. And each team will do it different. Each rider will have a different feeling or want a different table. And we have to work on that over a weekend. And that can make a very big difference. Same with the engine braking. Because all the engine braking strategies are done on a similar, done in a similar way. So the throttle bodies, when we shut the throttle, they actually open again, but just don't put fuel in. And then by opening them, it basically allows air into the engine, which stops the rear wheel from locking up. But again, it's done on engine revs and what gear to stop the wheel from blocking. But it won't do it. It's not AI. It doesn't learn. It's only off whatever table that we put into the bike. So that's hard to set up and it's hard to understand. And there's lots of different ideas and theories of what works, what doesn't work, and what table shapes work and don't. So everyone has a different idea, and again, everyone has a different feeling. Riders ride differently, so it's complicated to set up. So although we don't have electronics as such, we kind of also do.
Yeah, got you. And it's just a question of you've got to learn your own mapping. The own electronics on your bike set for you. Yeah.
And when you change from the 18 BMW for us to the 19 BMW, it's completely different. It's not even close to the old bike. So it was relearning all over again because the bike we're on now, the S1000RR, it's completely different. So it feels different. It reacts different. So it took a long time and still is. We're still learning with it now. We're a year down the line and in testing in Jerez and Monte Blanco and Guadix that we went to earlier in March, we were still finding new things.
Yeah. Have you taken the road version out? The public version of the.
I have ridden a standard bike. Yeah, not on the road. Although I do have a license, I basically never ride on the road. I can do, but I just ride too fast.
It wouldn't end well.
Yeah, it just wouldn't end well. So, but I have ridden a completely stock one. They're phenomenal. They're unbelievable for a standard road bike. They're just ridiculous.
I don't know if you know anything about me, but I used to be a jigsaw man. I was a jigsaw thou man, and I rode one around the world actually. So I was always known for the G6R1000s, and then I came back and made the mistake of throwing my leg over a GS, and that was it. So now I take the GS to the track. But I took out the new S1000RR last year, and shitballs, what a bike! I mean, I thought I'd lost my love for sports bikes, and that thing that tickled my danglies like nothing on earth. But I used to be a copper. I used to be a policeman in London, and that test ride lost me my job. So now I'm a full-time YouTuber.
There you go. Well, there's a silver lining for everything.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm living the dream now, so can't argue. Well, Steve Mason. Question for both of us. What's on your bucket list?
Oh, yeah, good question.
Yeah.
What's on my bucket list? I really, really want to ride a GP bike, a modern era GP bike, if any of them, to be quite honest. So whether it be a Honda, a Suzuki, a Ducati, a KTM, Yamaha, I'm not bothered. I just want to be able to just say I've ridden one, just a modern era MotoGP bike properly on a proper test day somewhere, and not to try and be the fastest, but just to say that I've ridden one and I've had a good go on one and ridden it properly. I think that would be a big bucket list to tick off. What else do I want to do?
So is there anything you'd like to say? Do you want to give a little exclusive maybe to TeapotOne?
Please. What else do I want to do? I want to do a skydive. I've booked on twice to do skydives. They've been cancelled both times.
Jeez. Mate, that has got to be some sort of message, surely.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Well, no, third time lucky, surely.
Oh, Jesus.
Both times been weather as well, typically, but anyway. What else do I want to do? What was the bucket list of it?
You can't get insured, surely. Like a road racer, and now you want to go skydiving.
Yeah, it's not particularly easy. It's expensive, shall we?
Yeah, I bet.
It's expensive. What else? I had a good one in my head then, and I've lost it. I don't know. What's yours?
Cool, bucket list. This goes back to my world travel days. Part of the initial idea of doing my world trip was I wanted to ride Mongolia. I wanted to take the Jigsaw across Mongolia, but I snapped the frame crossing Russia, so I just couldn't get into Mongolia with a snap frame. So I would love to go back, and I would like to take a sports bike, whether that's a Jigsaw or S1000RR, whatever I get. I'd like to take a sports bike across Mongolia.
Nice.
That's it. Yeah, I'd like to ride to Everest Base Camp, actually. So I'd go via Mongolia. I don't know if it's possible, really, because you have to sort of get through China and stuff. But yeah, I would love to do that. Ride to Everest Base Camp.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. You've reminded me of what I was going to say, and that is I quite fancy doing the Dakar. It's something that I've quite fancied for a while. There was talk between me and a few friends earlier in the year actually about doing it, about doing it together, not to try and win it, again just to go and actually experience it and do it and see how we get on, and doing it as a group. But I think obviously with everything that's been going on at the minute, that's all been kind of put on hold. But yeah, that's something that I think would be pretty epic.
Do you know Lyndon Poskett?
No, I don't know.
No, he's got a YouTube channel called what the hell is it called? Oh, I've forgotten the name of it now. But if you just search Lyndon Poskett, and he's done, the premise of that was that he packed up, sold up, hit the road on his bike, and he was basically just riding around the world, and he was doing lots of different rally races all around the world. So he's done the Dakar a few times, and he films the whole thing. Yeah, so he's done the Mali Dakar, where you're all just self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And then last year he did it with his own team. And it's a cracking series. It really is a good series. Well worth watching.
Yeah, I'll have a look at that.
Yeah, he's got a professional sort of media team that follow in 4x4s, and they edit as they go. So it's really well done. It's quite a polished little thing.
Oh, mega.
Yeah, Dakar, God, that's hardcore, crikey.
Yeah,
I say to a TT racer.
And I'm not an off-road rider at all, so for me...
Oh, you're not?
No, not particularly, and it would be, for me, it definitely would be hard. It would be a hard thing. I can ride a bike, obviously, but, there's certain skills that I won't have that I'll have to learn pretty quick, I think.
Have you done any off-road down at Toro Trail down in southern Spain?
No.
I'll put you in touch with the bloke that owns that, because he's had like Carl Fogarty and Jamie Whittam. He's had loads of people down there doing it. But he'd love to take you out.
I get asked to go and do stuff all the time. I just never get time.
I'll bet.
And now I have got time. It's because nobody can do anything.
Yeah, you can't get down there. Yeah. Here's one. Now, I read this, and there's obviously a story to this. Dean Richardson, he said, for Peter, the 2019 TT lamp lovers, care to comment? There's been a few people commented on that.
Yeah,
What's that all about?
I bet there has been. Well, I think if anyone knows what the page is, then they already know. There was obviously a lot of rain at TT in 2019, so we didn't really do a lot. So I posted a picture onto the lamp lovers with a nice lamp.
And that was it. It went from there, did it?
Yeah, I think that's all we need to say.
Right, okay. I'll do some digging. Right, Ed Griffiths, how did you feel after your first proper lap of the TT? So let's say your first race lap. What was the buzz like when you finished?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I just I can remember all of it. I can remember my first lap behind Milky Quail, because you have to follow an instructor to start with. So I followed Milky. I did a big wheelie all the way down Glen Crutchley Road on my first lap, which apparently I'm the only person ever to do that, because normally everyone's shitting themselves, whereas I was there just enjoying myself. To my first lap, I did my first lap. You do 2 laps before you need to pull in, so I just did, I went straight through and just did another lap immediately, and I just loved it. I've loved every second of riding around the Isle of Man. I've never ridden around there and not enjoyed myself. I've had a bike that didn't quite handle right in year 2. Actually, funnily enough, was on one of the first nights, it was not handling how I wanted it to, and it gave me a massive tank slapper down Sulby Straight. And I'm quite a big, strong lad. I can hang on to most things, and it nearly got out of my hands, and I was like, I don't fancy doing that again. But we managed to sort it, but even then it was only really that one section where it did it, and I pulled straight in and was like, we need to do something different. So, and we sorted it, and it was fine. I wouldn't say it scared me. It was just kind of like, I can't be doing that every lap. I need to solve that problem. So, but yeah, I think my first race, I finished 14th in my first race, so which was a superbike race in 14. On that stocker, it was good fun. I didn't even know where I finished. I had no idea. I had no pit boards. I had nothing, because I didn't want to know. I didn't ask to. In all my pit stops, I told the guys, don't tell me what lap time I'm doing. I don't want to know. I don't want to know where I am. I don't want to know anything. Just fill up the bike and let me go. And that, that's how I did pretty much my first 3 years. I did that. I didn't have any pit boards for any of it. So just because I just wanted to ride and learn and enjoy myself and go from there. But yeah, it's a pretty epic place to ride. So you get the buzz off it is pretty high.
Yeah, I bet. Following on, you mentioned about the rain last year at the 19 TT. Dean Richardson's asking again. He said, with the weather, does that have an effect on your mentality with regards to the racing? Like, how do you keep yourself focused and switched on, say, during when you prolong periods where you should be racing but you can't because of the weather?
Everyone handles it differently. It's tough for everyone, I think, involved, but you just got to deal with it. It's a bit like now. I should have been in the Northwest last week. I should be pretty much heading to Donington tomorrow for the British Superbikes Championship, and then heading to the TT. And I've not ridden a bike since March, which for a lot of people might be quite normal, but for me, it's definitely not normal. It's probably the longest period in a very long time that I've not ridden a bike at all. Wow. I've not been able to ride. I've not been riding my mini bikes. I've not been riding my Ovalis, my flat track. Because we can't. I probably had options too if I could, but I felt like it wasn't right under the circumstances. What with the strain on the NHS and all the rest of it. So I just haven't. So I've literally done nothing apart from work in the workshop every day. So it's been. But a lot of people that gets them down, and I have quite a lot of people say, "Oh, how are you coping? How are you getting on?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine." There's nothing I can do about it, so I don't dwell on anything. I don't worry about stuff. If I can't do it, there's nothing I can do to change it. Then what's the point in worrying about it? If there's something I can do that can alter the path so that I can go and ride, then that would probably bother me. But because I can't,
then you're talking,
yeah. So same as TT last year, we hardly did any laps whatsoever in practice. In fact, I did 2 laps on each bike in practice before I actually raced. So I did 8 laps in altogether. I did 2 laps on the lightweight, 2 laps on the super sport, 2 laps on the stocker, and just 2 laps on the superbike. So I went into the race 1 with only 8 laps practice, which is not a lot at all for the TT. Not a lot. That's only each corner 8 times. It's not a lot.
That's just ridiculous to then go out and spank it. Yeah.
When there's 260 of them, it's tough. But again, it didn't bother me. It wasn't, I wasn't sat there every day going, I should be riding my bike. I just, it is what it is. Deal with it and get on.
Yeah. It's funny what you're saying about, the current situation we're at just now with COVID and stuff. I've got friends and family who are very work focused, and almost to the expense of other things in their lives. And this time where they've been forced to just, take the foot off the gas and they can't work, all of a sudden, a lot of them are like, wow, I've missed so much. I'm actually really enjoying this alternative life. And it's made a few of them rethink about maybe what they'll prioritise when they get back. But I suppose for you, it's going to be, right, head down, arse up, let's get racing.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah, certainly.
It's got to be, hasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Paul, would Peter rather race BSB every weekend or do the TT every weekend?
I don't think you could do TT every weekend. It would be too much.
Yeah, I think you'd be cutting down your chances there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. Everything's a calculated risk. I don't do a lot of the road racing particularly. I do the Northwest, I do TT, I've done the Ultra obviously, and Macau, and I haven't really done anything else. I get asked to go do the Southern 100, I get asked to do Armoy and lots of other road races, Scarborough all the time. But I have the opportunities if I want to, but at the end of the day, you've got to kind of decide what's right for you, and you got to limit the risk where you can. I think there's certain risks that are worth taking. There's some that are not. So everything's calculated. As much as it might seem like we're all idiots, and some of us are. Don't get me wrong. It's not quite as bad as that.
Are you superstitious?
No, not particularly.
You're not, because I know quite a few of the riders are. Aren't they?
Loads are.
McGuinness, he always drops a penny down his pants, doesn't he? Or he says he does.
Yeah, I think down his top, it's a lucky penny, isn't it? Yeah. And like Foggy always had that green vest. I don't know if you saw the Northwest thing, but he was talking about the green vest that he wore, and he always had bad luck at the Northwest, and then an Irishman told him, you need some green on you, mate. You'll get some luck. He wore his green vest and won both races and broke that record. So he literally wore it every time he raced, And again, it's that mentality. So if it works for you, then it works for you. If going to the gym twice a day, every day that you're not riding the bike works for you, crack on. There's no issue.
Puts you in the right frame of mind with the confidence.
It's all, 99% of what we do is in your head.
Right, Ben Craven, if you could ride any bike around any track for any series, and that's including the TT, what bike and what circuit would you choose?
Tough again. It'd be a MotoGP bike of some sort. Again,
seeing a theme here, Peter. Seeing a theme.
I don't know which one in particular. Probably the Ducati, because it looks hard and fast and fun.
Yeah.
Where would I ride it? Don't know. I would have to choose a Grand Prix track of some sort. I don't think it'd be particularly fun around the Isle of Man.
No.
I think you'd want to ride it somewhere like Phillip Island or Laguna Seca, Mugello.
Yeah.
Mugello. There we go.
Yeah.
That'll do.
I've managed to do a couple of little like show laps on various circuits when I was doing my trip, but I couldn't blag my way into Mugello. They wouldn't let me in. But
I've never been either. I've never been.
Have you not?
I've done Phillip Island.
Awesome.
But not Mugello, not yet.
Phillip Island's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's almost like a BSB circuit. The way the crowd can get right up close to
it's awesome.
the
really,
track.
Really good.
Yeah,
really good.
Look great. What have we got here? Peter Hamazadzai. I think that's it. Peter's a mate of mine, actually, and I still can never say his surname right. Hamadzadai, I think that's it. What were your thoughts when Michael Rutter was in front off the line at the Macau restart in 2019?
Michael's always really, really good at starting. Really good. He's always been the same. And it was unusual that the first start he didn't get to turn one first. What was my thought? You old bastard.
Miffed, yeah, miffed.
And then I thought, I'll follow you for a lap, and then I'll get on. And then that bit me in the arse, didn't it? Really. So.
What is Macau like? I mean, it's just like a video game. It just looks like a video game.
It's tough because you can't. There's nowhere quite like it because because of the walls, or obviously you have walls, Armco barriers or stone walls, both sides all the way around. So because of that, every single corner you approach is blind. All of them. There's not one corner you can see through. So you have to know exactly where you're going. And a lot of it over the middle part of the track. It's actually, there's loads of undulation in the track. You don't really see it off the TV.
Is there?
There's a lot. It goes right up. I'm not entirely sure what the elevation is, but it's a lot. And in the middle of the circuit, there's basically 3 chicanes. There's a left, right, and a left, right, all one after another. But when you approach them, they nearly all look the same. Well, the first one's kind of like a medium speed. The second one's really fast. And then the last one's actually really slow and really tight. But when you approach, they all look the same. And it's very easy to get kind of confused between which one's which. So you really have to be switched on around Macau. It's a tough, it's the most dangerous place that we ride at for sure.
Is it?
Yeah, we just don't do that much riding there. So over the 3-day weekend that we race at Macau, we'll do probably 350 kilometers over the whole 3 days, including the race. We do that in a night at the TT.
Gotcha. Following on from that, then, Paul Wilkinson, TT or Macau? What's your favourite?
TT. I mean, TT's the ultimate, isn't it? It's got 260 corners. It's it's pretty. It's got a bit of everything, and then some. So it's there's nothing quite like it. I mean, Macau's still very special. Don't get me wrong, and I enjoy racing around there. But TT is epic.
Fair enough. Another one from Pete. If you could be any other racer, past or present, who would you be and why?
Ooh. Somebody, I think Barry Sheen would be the one, wouldn't he? I think he had a pretty good life, didn't he?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think that kind of Playboy era was very cool and acceptable at the time. You can't really get away with it now.
It was like the epitome, wasn't it? It was the epitome of being like a motorsport star.
Yeah, you can't really. Yeah, it's not. You have to be very, very PT now to get away with anything.
Do you find you obviously have to play the whole corporate PR game a lot. I mean, you seem like a sensible, decent fella anyway, but do you have to bite your tongue quite a lot?
No, not particularly. No, I mean, I don't. No. I'm not really. I don't think I'm too bad anyway, but every now and then I'll have a pop at somebody, but I'm not really like that, to be fair. And if I do it, I'm normally because I'm amusing myself more than anything. I don't mind a bit of wind-up every now and again.
What about social media? Do you make the mistake of reading comments and answering back and things like that?
Yeah, although I don't really get slagged off that much every now and again. But I don't. Yeah, if I see it, I normally either laugh or I'll probably give them a bird or something. But I'm not that bothered, to be fair.
I've got to be honest. I'm very lucky. I don't get too much like hate in the comments and stuff, but I know some of the other lads that do similar stuff to me, some of them get pelters all the time. And you read the comments and you think, you cheeky bastard, you wouldn't say that to someone's face. And it's like, what makes you think you can write that?
It is what it is, isn't it? If we're all the same, we'd be boring. So
yeah, exactly. It's what makes life exciting, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Steve Peckett, what were your initial thoughts when the team switched from Triumph to the R6 in the Supersport class?
Well, it was something that we spoke about together as a group a lot. I love the Triumph. The Triumph's mega, and we finally won on it, or I finally won on it last year. But in all honesty, it's very old. It's very long in the tooth. It's a 2015 bike. There's not many parts around for it anymore. Which is tough, as a race team like that, especially with the Triumphs, they need to be pretty much brand new all the time to be at their peak. And even at their peak, they're not as strong as the R6. The R6 is the newest 600 on the grid, so obviously it's the strongest. We spoke about it for the year before, for last year even. The team, especially Rebecca and Alan Smith, they've both been with Triumph for a very long time. They love the fact that it's British, as do I. As does the whole team. The whole team loved the bike. It was just a little bit long in the tooth. It was just not quite fast enough, and especially as I'm one of the taller riders and bigger riders, like it's tough to ride. I have to absolutely ride the wheels off it, and everyone obviously is. But there was some moments last year where I really had to like dig in hard, and we'd spoken about the R6 before, and Rebecca was like, no, we're staying Triumph. And then there was a particular race last year, and after the race, she wasn't even there actually. She rang and she went, okay, you can get a Yamaha. Just promise me you're not going to ride like that again. I was like,
so,
right.
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I was kind of fingers crossed down the back. But, so that's kind of where it all came about.
Have you had much time on the R6 then since you moved to it? No.
Not even sat on it.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, and obviously with everything that's happened, we would have done by now.
Yeah.
But it just once everything kind of got cancelled, it was not a priority to get it ready. But it's sat in the workshop. It's just not finished yet.
Wow. Right, what else do we have here? One from Alex Bentley. Would you forgo the roads and concentrate on, well, he's put World Supers, but let's say the MotoGP presented itself. Would you let go of the road racing to have the pop at that?
Tough, isn't it? Yeah, I don't really know. I don't think I'll ever really know unless that opportunity ever arose, which it was not going to. But would I actually say no to the TT to do a year of GP? Possibly, yeah. Yeah, because I'm all about new experiences. So, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't want to do the TT again, but I have been there and I have won there. And I've won there more than once, which is nice. I've got the lap record at the minute, which is nice. I haven't been on a MotoGP bike. I haven't ridden around Mugello. I haven't ridden around Laguna Seca. I haven't been to Mazzano. I haven't, there's lots of other things I haven't done yet, and I like to tick boxes. I like to do things I've not done before. So if the opportunity arose, would I take it? Probably yes, I would, and I probably would say no to the TT for a year. I'd probably try and argue that I needed to do the TT at the same time. But if it came to it, I would probably say, all right, I'll leave TT for a year and I'll do MotoGP and then maybe come back next year.
I think I can imagine what Dorna's answer would be if you said you would.
Yeah, I can as well.
Okay, well, this is a deep one from Call Beat. A career in motorsport is exciting, but the rewards are not certain. The period we are in shows the fragility of a lot of things. What's your strategy to ensure you're preparing for a life after racing?
Yeah, very deep.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a few things going on. Recently I announced that the workshop here is actually my workshop. So Smiths work out of my workshop. Daz lives only half a mile up the road. I now have I've got 2 employees now that are my own employees. So Hickman Racing is a company. So I've got my own employees. I've got an engine builder, an engine tuner, and a bike builder as well. So it's we are now building bikes and tuning engines for other people, for track dayers, for club riders, for anyone, other TT riders. In fact, we've just done a bike we've got 2 bikes in there for TT riders. So, and one of them you'll know the name of. So it's, it's a new venture for me. And the idea of that is to, if anything either happened that I couldn't race, then I have something to fall back on to at least earn some money. And funnily enough, at this moment in time, I'm not able to earn any money from racing at all. But I'm now, we've been building engines, we've stripped and cleaned and completely rebuilt a bike from the front axle to the rear axle. So there is some income coming in. It's not going to make me rich, don't get me wrong, but I've got some income coming in, which is what we need. And I'm looking at trying to expand that business more and more and more into being able to build bikes for people and have a dyno here, and we have a dyno that we can use. It's only half an hour up the road anyway, which is Pete Clifford, who is my electronics engineer for Smiths anyway. So we're kind of all in a similar area. So that's something that I want to build into a business over the kind of next year or two, for an income later on in life.
And were you? Is that right? You were involved with the mini bikes with the series, trying to get the youngsters, the grassroots in as well.
That was the other thing. Yeah, I'm the importer for Ovali. Ovale is an Italian motorcycle, which is they're mini GP bikes, so they are in between a mini moto and a Moto 3. They used to be called Moto 4, I think, at one point. Actually, that was their original title. But yeah, so I'm the UK importer, which I took on in November, and we set up a series for the young kids using the 110cc bikes. They can ride them from 8 years old onwards.
Wow.
And the idea is to bring them through in the correct way, to give them some on-track training, to give them some off-track training. So media training, how to do things like this, how to talk to the press, how to approach sponsors. That's the whole idea with it all. Yes, it's not quite happened the way that we wanted it to because of COVID. But so everything's on the back burner at the minute until we can get going again. But yeah, it's an academy style championship. So with the British mini bikes, it's called the Mini GP Talent Cup. At the minute, it consists of not only the Ovale Cup, but also other classes as well. But my plan in the kind of near future, at least, is to have a full Ovale series. So you can go from the 110 class to the 160 class to the 190 class, and then move on to a Moto 3. And you'll have a proper stepping stone all the way through from 8 years old onwards. And we can give them, pass on my experience and what I've learned to young kids. 8 years old to 14, they'll soak it up. They'll do it easy enough so that when they're 18 and got an opportunity of maybe being a BSB rider, they're already media savvy. They're already got a sponsor or two because they've been able to approach them properly. There's definitely a lot of riders out there at the moment that have not got that and will struggle because of it. It's I guess I'm one of the most academic riders around, maybe. Not because most of them haven't been like that. Most of them have just ridden bikes since they were a kid. I didn't really have that. I didn't ride a bike till I was 12, so that might not sound late, but that's quite late in bike terms. And I only started riding at 12 because I bought my own because my dad wouldn't let me have one. So, so I did actually a lot at school, and I went all the way through till I was 16. And I was pretty good at school. So, I have that element to me, I guess, that I can use my social media properly. I can promote myself properly, and a lot of riders don't have that, and they've not been able to be taught that. And in Italy and Spain, that's exactly what they're doing, which is why the GP paddock in particular is flooded with Spanish and Italian. So we're way behind on that, and that's something that I want to correct. And the British Mini Bike Championship with Alan Lord, who owns it, wants to correct as well. And we're getting more and more interest. We've got a few people on board that are helping and investing in the kids, which is great.
I was going to ask there. So, what's the future prospect like then? Is it healthy, the interest at the moment, or is it something that you're going to have to nurture through?
Yeah, and it's really new at the minute. Obviously, we've not even done round one yet now, but we've got 11 kids on the radar now, or signed up for the championship. Which for a brand new championship, I think that's not too bad. They're not particularly cheap. They're not mega expensive either, but they're not particularly cheap. So the parents have got to get their hand in the pocket to be able to do it. But in the long run, it'll be better for them because the bike's not Chinese. It's built in Italy. It doesn't fall apart every 5 minutes, which most of the pit bikes do. And they've got an opportunity to use that bike for kind of 5 or 6 years, which you would never do with a pit bike because it would fall apart. It's a bit like Trigger's Broom. It'll have had 25 engines and 10 chassis. So, this bike's not like that. It can be used for 5 or 6 years, no problem. It can go from the 110 class to the 160 just by changing an engine. The chassis is the same. So it has some longevity. It has some return. Whereas a lot of the pit bikes don't. So although they have more investment initially, in the long run, it's actually going to be better for them.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing how that develops then.
So do I.
I'll have to get working with the missus and get a new champion. my son's 22 now, so he's a bit too long in the teeth.
He's maybe missed the boat. He can do the adult class.
Yeah. Can't even drive a car, so God knows what he'd be like in a bike. Okay. Neil Pendlebury, question for you, Peter. Out of all the other riders that you race against, who do you feel happier or safest going wheel to wheel with? That puts you on the spot a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Tough. Nearly all of them are pretty good. You've always got your loose ones, but in general, everyone's pretty damn good. We're all professionals at the end of the day, so everyone's a level where they understand where everyone else is at. Of course, people make mistakes, but that's just being human. As a general rule, everyone's pretty good. And, I've made mistakes and I've taken people out of the path and I've had to hold my hands up and go, I'm really sorry, I made a mistake.
Part of racing, isn't it?
It's part of racing, of course it is. And we all understand that. I've been taken out a few times as well. And it's just one of them things, it just happens.
Yeah.
You just deal with it again. You just deal with it and move on. So everyone really, especially road racing, but even in VSB, everyone's pretty good.
Cool. Trevor Mould, this is a good one. If you could make one change or modification to the TT circuit, what would it be?
There's a lot of places that are becoming prohibited for spectators. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't. The ones I don't agree with, I'd take out.
Do you want to say?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the actual name of the corners. There's too many bloody names. There's a corner just before Union Mills. There's a real fast left-hander. And they've stopped people from standing on the inside, which I find is ridiculous because you're never going to end up on the inside. And there's a few places like that that's happened. There's one just before the gooseneck on the left as well. They've stopped people sitting there, and I just think, why? It's an awesome place. Like, if I was spectating, that's definitely one of the places I would go because it would be within kind of a meter of the riders doing, kind of 120 mile an hour. So, of course, that's where you want to sit. They're going to come not quite directly at you, but not far away. So that's kind of the whole point.
It's just such a surreal experience that to be sat there and have a bike come by you at insane speed.
Yeah,
so I'd never experienced that. It was the pressure wave. It's that sort of noise. That was what got me. Wow.
Yeah, I always send everyone to Gorse Lake. Gorse Lake's one of the fastest corners on the track, and it's one of them places where you can stand only probably a meter away from a bike doing 170 mile an hour, like a genuine 170 mile an hour, and it is ridiculous. It frightens you standing there, and that's what's good about it.
Yeah. One of the first places we stood, my wife and I, is we went and stood at the bottom of Bray Hill. Oh my! I felt sick. I genuinely felt sick. It was just like, oh, this is insane.
It's a pretty insane place.
Oh yeah, awesome. Right, last one of the patron questions. Eddie Goldspink, what are your thoughts on? Right, I ride the GS, like I said. What are your thoughts on the GS? Outside of racing, do you travel or tour on a bike? Have you ever ridden the GS?
I haven't. No.
No, the tractor,
isn't it? Being a BMW ambassador as well, you'd think I would say yes, wouldn't you? I keep meaning to go and do the school in Wales on the GSs.
Oh yeah.
And I still haven't got down to do it. So, but yeah, I'd like to. But again, it's that whole riding on the road thing is not a good thing for me. I've done it a few times. If it's something small, then I'll be all right. But if it can do 150 mile an hour, it'll be doing 150 mile an hour. That's the issue. And I don't even know I'm doing it. That's the big thing. I went out a long time ago. I went out with a few guys on the road that ride on the road all the time. They got Gixxer 1000s, LX10s and stuff. And I was on an R1 at the time, and I was constantly like, "Come on, get on with it, come on!" And then I look down and we're doing 120 mile an hour, and I'm like, "Oh, jeez!" Down back lanes, and like, it's not a good life expectancy doing that kind of thing.
No, you'll end up inside as well, won't you? The way things
exactly,
are.
So I kind of knocked that on the head pretty quick.
Be interesting to see you take a GS onto the track. I've done a couple of track. I did brands on it. I've done a few track days on the GS, and I mean, obviously, just I can't even compare to what you do. But it's a really amazing bike on the track. Oh, the top end's nothing, obviously, but the grunt low down's great fun. Yeah. And you can get your knee down on it. What a sensation flying around like top of Druids or something with your knee on the deck on the GS. Great fun.
Nice.
How are you for time? Are you okay for time?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah.
Lovely job.
I'm not that tired yet. I'll be all right.
Right, we'll move on to Instagram now then. Mark Fulcher. He says, firstly, can I thank you for signing his grandstand ticket at the 18TT when you did that lap?
You're welcome.
He's a massive fanboy, is Fulch. When Andrew Irwin nearly wiped you out at Thruxton and showed you a gentle wave for an apology, how gratifying was it when you came back past him and gave him the two-finger salute?
I didn't really think about it at the time, to be quite honest. It was, and I'd forgotten about it by the time I got to the next corner. I think I was angry, but only for probably them 2 corners, and then I was over it. But yeah, looking back, it was pretty fun, right? it was good. Yeah, it just. I guess I was more annoyed that we touched a little bit on the first lap, and talking to him afterwards, he felt like I didn't need to do that. And in my opinion was, well, I was sat there and we just touched. We only nudged. I didn't run into him. He didn't run into me. We just kind of went for the same bit of tarmac, really. And I was kind of there already, so I wasn't just going to shut the throttle. I was there. Yeah. And he felt like that was obviously a trigger in his head that meant that, all right, you fair game to just plough into. And I passed him a couple of times, and I knew that when I passed him, as I did, I closed the line deliberately so that he couldn't come up the inside. And instead, because there wasn't a gap, he made a gap by running through me. He didn't just nudge me. He actually took the bars out of my hand. I nearly went down it. Although he didn't really look it, I actually nearly went down. The bars hit the lock stop and came back. Yeah. Bear in mind, that's at like 110, 120 mile an hour, so it wasn't particularly slow. And it just annoyed me that he felt like he could ride through me. So that's really why I was like, well, I'll either pass you at Goodwood is the next kind of, you go through a left and then a really fast right, which you have to have full commitment into. It's 4th gear. It's probably 150, 60 mile an hour. And I was like, well, I am either passing you, hitting you, or we're both going down one way or the other. So that was, so once I did actually pass him, I thought, well, I'll just give you the burden.
Yeah, and that's that. Are you the type of rider? Do you find it hard to compete with your emotions then when you're riding, or you're just very much methodical? You deal with the situation that's arising.
I'm normally
and move
pretty
on.
methodical. There's the odd moment, but I'm normally pretty methodical. I think actually last year I was quite emotional in a few different cases. I got emotional at Cadwell, which was after that as well when Gino got in my way in qualifying. He didn't do it deliberately, but he was kind of riding around, cruising around, and not really looking, and properly got in my way and ruined my lap and ruined probably me getting into the Q3 was my last go, and I was proper angry. And I remember when I watched it back, I can see just how angry I was. I actually took another lap to calm myself down before actually pulling into the pits because I was revving. Where else did I go? Donington. The chain snapped at Donington after I was having a really good ride. Possible podium on the cars, and the bloody chains now, which never happens. I've never even snapped a chain before. I'm going to touch wood. I've never even snapped a chain before, and I snapped the chain. I was so frustrated that I was so close to doing what I wanted to do and still didn't manage it. But it must have been an emotional year for me last year.
Right, Mark's got another question. Are you still running the Norton Lightweight potentially for this year, or is that done because of the situation?
Because of COVID, it obviously means there's no kind of road racing. But yes, I still have the Norton. It's a great little bike actually. It's mint. I'm really looking forward to actually rolling it out to show everyone because it's very different to what it was. The bike. I rode the bike at the TT last year, and it was good. But it was a road bike. It was a road bike. Apart from not having lights on it. It was a road bike, so to finish 8th on it and do over 120 mile an hour, it was quite impressive, really. So the bike is, apart from the chassis, it is completely different. Front to back, it's completely different. We've got our own triple clamps, we've got completely different forks, shocks. The engine's been built by us here in-house at PHR, so it's going to be very different. It's going to be very different, and it's a lot lighter than what it was. It was 25 kilos over the weight limit, which is not good when you've only got 90 odd horsepower. So it was heavier than my super stock 1000 BMW, and it was only a little 650.
That's nuts, isn't it?
So it was a heavy brute, but she's not anymore. She's we don't even know quite how heavy she is, but she's going to be a lot lighter. It's going to be it's a proper little race bike. The rules are really open for the twins. You can pretty much do what you want, it's a proper race bike. It's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to actually getting out and riding it properly and showing it off. It's my own bike, so I can kind of do what I want with it. And we decided, we'll have a go and see what we can do with it. I want to ride something different. Everyone rides in that class. Everyone rides either an ER6, which is the majority, or if you've got some money, then you buy yourself a Pan. Which tends to win the races. So so I want to ride something different and something British. So yeah, that's why I kind of joined the Norton team last year. Obviously, things have gone a bit wrong there, but fortunately, TVS has taken over now and looking like they're going to take Norton properly into the future with some proper backing. Yeah, that company is massive, $8.8 billion or something it's worth. So it's definitely got the money to put where its mouth is. So so I'm looking for. I've not even met the new owners or anything yet. So I've just kind of been doing everything off my own bike so far. But fingers crossed. I read a report the other day that they're into racing. So hopefully at some point, they might come and say hello and maybe even help us out a bit. But
absolutely, absolutely.
I think the bike,
watch this space.
Yeah, I think the bike's going to surprise a few people, which I'm looking forward to.
I look forward to seeing it roll out. Right. Bit of a light-hearted one, this. Paul Jones, what do you order to eat at the Calf of Man Visitor Centre? Scone with jam and clotted cream wins hands down for him, he says.
I'm with him.
Yeah?
That's it.
No, are you cream first or jam first?
Jam first, cream on top.
Oh, okay, right. Posh.
Is that posh? I don't know.
I don't know. I was going to say, do I look like I know? But yeah, I plainly like my food. But I don't think I've even ever had a scone with jam and cream. Okay. Official Mr. Fish. First of all, without blowing smoke up your arse, you're one of his favourite riders. Not me, you, he says, because you seem to enjoy your craft. So the question is, who's the most miserable or annoying in the paddock?
Well, that's two different questions. The most miserable is Michael Rutter without even having to think about it.
Is he genuinely?
A miserable Midlander. Do you know what, actually, he's mint. He's a real good laugh. You'd think from the outside, and he is miserable, but he's kind of funny with it, so he's all right, he gets away with it. I think it's just because he's getting old. He just likes moaning. He's only happy if he's moaning about something. Yeah, unless he's got something to like moan about, then he's not happy. The most annoying... probably someone like Lee Johnston, because he's that small. He's always nipping at your ankles, isn't he? Like a little Jack Russell.
Well, following on from that, someone's asked, Jenks Riders ask, what do you think of Guy Martin?
Do you know what? I don't know Guy particularly well. I've met him a few times. I think he's been great for the sport. He's brought the sport to the masses as far as TV is concerned and all the rest of it. Yep. So I don't think anyone can knock him for that. Unfortunately for him, he never won a TT, but he was very much a nearly man, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've not had that many dealings with him, to be fair. I say I've met him a few times, said hello to. I wouldn't say I know him particularly. So, good question. I don't really know. I mean, I can't really. You can't judge a book by its cover. If I knew him a bit more, then maybe I could say a bit more. But I think I enjoy watching him on TV. I think he's really good fun to watch. I've raced with him obviously a few times, not a lot, but a few times. So I guess that's about it, really.
My missus loves him. God, she is like the Brad Pitt for my missus. God.
Yeah, I think he's a bit chalk and cheese, isn't he? I think you either love it or you don't. But I think he's good fun to watch. I enjoy watching the TV programs. I think they're mega.
Yeah, I do. I genuinely do. And like you said, he's brought the TT in particular into the living rooms of a lot of people who probably wouldn't have even watched it initially. So it can only be good. Lean Tuck Twist, how does your pre-race ritual differ from short track riding to road racing?
Not a lot different, if at all. I don't really have a ritual, to be fair.
I was going to ask, do you have any?
Well, if you say like I'm superstitious, I'm not really superstitious or anything. The only thing I would say that I do that I always do the same is when I like put my kit on. It's always in the same routine. Yeah. So it's always kind of. In fact, it's been that long, I can't even remember which leg I put in first. It's either right leg first or left leg first. I can't even remember. I think it's my left leg first. I don't know. I'd have to do it. If I did it, I'd know. I don't even think about it, but I just know that I do it in a certain way.
I was going to say, the next time you come to do it, you'll be like, is that the one I normally do?
Is that the right way or the wrong way? But yeah, I don't. Apart from the way that I do that, then there isn't really any ritual as such. I don't have a certain breakfast I've got to eat. I don't have to have a certain dessert the night before or whatever. I kind of just whatever's happening is happening.
All right. Niall, I don't even know how you pronounce his surname. YWDT. Niall Wheat. Sweet. We kind of touched on this before. This is about race circuits, ultimate race circuits. But he's asking, out of all the road and race circuits that you've raced on, what's your all-time top 3? So not just the top 3 maybe that you haven't ever been to, but the ones you've actually been on and raced.
The ones I've actually been on and raced. TT's obviously there. It's going to be tough. The Ulster Grand Prix is pretty spectacular. As a circuit, it's pretty much a short circuit, but there's a road circuit. It's a fast faster Thruxton. So I'm going to have to say TT, Ulster, and Phillip Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I couldn't believe it. I did a little bit of Northern Ireland before I came across to the TT at the end of my trip. I couldn't believe those roads. They're the ones that you race on. It's like a farm track back home, and you're racing on this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the Ulster's not too bad. The Ulster's pretty good, If you go to some of the other stuff, and like the Tandragee and stuff like that, they're definitely very, very narrow and pretty much a farmer's track. The Ulster's, it's quite wide and fast and open.
Yeah.
It's good. It's smooth as well.
Oh, we'll go. Now, I know you say you don't ride on the road, but Aaron McCloy's asking, if you were to go on a touring holiday, where would you go and what bike would you choose?
I've always fancied actually riding. Funny enough, we talked about Mugello already. We spoke about Dad's who's my crew chief. His dad is also one of my employees who works for me. He's got a phaser, so an old Yamaha phaser with big straight up bars on it. He's customised it loads. He loves it. He polishes it to death. It's done something like 50,000 miles, so he's done a lot of miles on it. And he's been all around Europe and stuff. But we spoke about going to Mugello for the MotoGP, but all on phasers.
Right.
Just because it's just an easy bike to ride.
Yeah.
It's not happened yet, and normally Mugello's around the TT, so that kind of kills that for me a little bit. But where would I actually go? I'd probably do something like a European tour, or maybe a bit of a tour of America, probably.
Yeah.
What bike would I choose? I haven't ridden enough to really kind of have a proper guess at what or know what I would choose. Yeah. I've not really, because you wouldn't want a sports bike because you'd just kill your wrists all the time, and you're
talking to a man that rode a Gixxer 1000 around the world.
I know.
You'll be all right. You'll be all right. You'll be fine.
I think it'd have to be something like a GS or an S1000R or something along them lines, or a phaser or something. Yeah, it'd have to be a bit more sit up and beg, I think. Plus, you could do monster wheelies whenever you like them.
Not in Switzerland. Just don't go to Switzerland, whatever you do. Jesus. Northern Spain, fantastic. Just biking heaven up there. It really is absolutely amazing. Yeah, you'd love it. Right. D. Donaldson, 2016. How does it feel to be the fastest person ever around the TT course? And do you think when it comes back to next year, you'll be able to improve on that time?
I don't really know how I feel about it, to be honest. It's a weird one. Again, it's not something I really think about too much. It's not, I'm not kind of walking around going, "Oh, I'm the 135 man all the time." It's not. I don't even turn up to the paddock like that. I don't think, "Oh, I'm faster than everyone here." That's not how I think. So I don't know how I feel. It's a nice feeling to know that I've got the lap record. It's certainly in the minute anyway. I don't really overthink it. To be honest, it's not. It's not something I think about too much. And what was the second part of the question?
And do you think there's much
room for improvement?
Prospect? Yeah, room for improvement.
I get asked a lot, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're going to break the record again this year and stuff," and I'm like, "Well, maybe, but only if I have to. If I can win the race at 120 mile an hour, I'll win it at 120. I don't."
No, I get that.
You only go as fast as you need to. You win the race at the slowest possible speed. It's only the fact that Dean and the other boys are going so fast that I need to go faster. So, that's it's the record is great to have, but it's not the be all and end all. And yes, we spoke about already that there was lots of traffic, so there's definitely room for improvement. The new S1000RR is stronger than the old S1000RR, so there's definitely a bit more time in it. That's why we were a lot stronger at the Ulster even last year. So we done 136.4 at the Ulster. So it's there's room for improvement, but whether you need to or not is a different question.
Yeah. It's like, bearing in mind how much traffic there was on that fast lap, that last lap. I mean, do you think like a second and a half, 2 seconds is viable to take off?
Yeah, it was over 2 seconds, definitely.
It's nuts how much traffic there was. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. It was like, geez, I didn't realise you had that many back markers to deal with.
Yeah, there was the ones that I can remember. There was one at Braddon Bridge. Didn't cost me too much, but cost me a little bit. And he cost me on the exit, which is always the worst because then you're going to lose on the next straight. So all the way down to Union Mills, I was losing the whole time. There was one just before Laurel Bank. Again, this isn't their fault. They didn't even know I was there. They're just doing their own race, And he was kind of in the middle of the track, and he was right in the wrong place for me. I could have maybe bullied my way past, but I just felt like it was too dangerous to do it. So I kind of just sat behind him. I had to sit behind him all the way through Laurel Bank until I got to the actual proper Laurel Bank. Anyway, all the section before it. I mean, I'd have been probably 15, 20 mile an hour faster through that sector if I'd ridden how I wanted to ride. So, what it cost, I don't know, probably half a second to a second just there alone, just in that one pass. So, and maybe half a second from the one before. So you're looking at 1.5, and we've only looked at 2 people. So, there was definitely more in it. I would think probably 4 seconds ish, maybe 5 if you were a bit lucky. Kurt Michael one was pretty tough. I had to compromise the entrance because I passed 2, and then I waited luckily with the next guy, and I had to shut the throttle where I would normally be flat out. So, and again, that you carry that speed and momentum for so long afterwards, you don't get that back. So it cost me, I don't know. I would say 5 seconds conservatively.
Wow.
So you're looking at probably it'd have been 136 ish. Maybe if it wasn't, then it'd have been damn close.
Wow. What the mind-blowing thing now is, I mean, that in itself, the 135 is just insane. But the amount of people that all of a sudden were up there competing for it, doing the high 134s and whatnot, and you're just like, that's nuts, considering only a couple of seasons before it was like, will you ever break that? Will we ever get there?
Well, we went from a 33, or people went from a 33 to a 35 in 1 year. Dean did the first 134 in the first race, and then I did 134 in the stock race twice, I think. And then, obviously we both did 134s in the senior. In fact,
what do you think?
I don't think I did 134 in the senior. I think I did 133s up to that point, which was my fastest. I don't know. Don't know what I did. I'm not even watched. I've not looked at the laps. So I don't know, but I'd have been somewhere around there. Yeah, but it's interesting that there's only me and Dean that's ever done 134, and there's only 4 other people that's ever done 133. So there's not that many people that have gone that fast.
Right. It was interesting seeing what you said earlier, and that you will go the slowest pace possible in order to win. Do you think, was it a case of once someone broke that sort of unattainable record for the speed, you were like, right, okay, now we've got to go for that. That's my target. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I mean, the senior was all about, I was using my pit board, so I knew already that Dean was really strong in the first sector in particular, but the first 2. And I knew that I couldn't do any more with the bike that I had at the time. I couldn't do any more in that sector or them 2 sectors. So I was like, just got to get through them sectors and then claw it back where I know I can claw it back. So rather than make the bike do something that it wouldn't do, I just allowed it to do what it would or could do, and then allowed it to do what it did really well. So then to get it back. So I was just kind of almost keeping him in touch. The most I think he ever got was 7 seconds, which is actually quite a long way. A lot of the TT riders that I know would have given up at 7 seconds. So, for me, I was kind of 6-7 seconds I was all right with. I was like, I feel confident enough that I can pull that back. So I just kept reining him back in where I needed him, where I needed to. And I knew I needed to be within kind of 6 seconds at Balaf on the last lap to actually have a chance of winning. And that's what it was. I think it was 5.7 seconds. So when I went through the lap and then had the 5.7 second board, I was like, I've actually got a good shot at beating this, and that wasn't me being cocky. I just knew that I had enough pace, especially over the mountain section, to, I was already pulling 4 seconds a lap as an average. I was pulling 4 seconds from Ramsey to the start line anyway. And I knew that I had in me a couple more if I needed it. So, that last lap was kind of like, right, well, because the thing is, he could have broke down on lap 4 or lap 5, and I'd never have even had to do it. The TT's a longevity race as much as anything else. So I am thinking about all of that all the time. So when it got to the last lap, I'm like, all right, he's not broken down. He's not had any problems. He's not slowing down. So I need to go faster. So, and that's what it was all about. And the same last year. The senior, although I ended up not winning the senior, I finished second because we had an issue. But, the first lap, I did 134.2 standing start. I did another 134.2 coming into the pits. Dean was high 33s, but was obviously on his limit. Lap 3, he gave up. He dropped. I went from kind of a 4 second gap to like 10 or 12, like almost straight away, just because he was like, I can't. He obviously was at his limit for whatever reason. He was on his limit, so he was like, okay, I've just got to let him go. But as it turned out, it worked in his favour because on lap 5 I had an issue and I got to the end of the race, but I couldn't ride as I needed to ride. So he ended up winning, not having to do 134s.
Yeah, so it's a lot more analytical, I think, than certainly the likes of me thinks. To me, it's just like head down, arse up, go for it. But it's interesting to hear that.
And open the throttle. It's not quite like that.
Yeah, calculated risk, like you said. Yeah. We'll go motorbike tourer. If you had to go to dinner with a table of 3 other people, who would it be, dead or alive?
Ooh. That is an unusual question. I quite like that.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I like that.
That's what I like about when you open it up to people, just because you never know what sort of questions they're gonna give you.
I would like to have. I mean, I've spoken to him a good few times. I've been in his garage and stuff. He's Valentino. I think he's going to have some awesome stories from kind of Honda and Yamaha and Ducati and other riders, Biaggi. I think he would have some proper stories to be able to tell, especially from traveling the world as much as he has done. I think I'd probably like to also have Sheeny there, and I think them two would work really well. I think they would be a good laugh between them. Yeah. And I think I would also have Colin Edwards, who I get on well with anyway. I go to his ranch every year. I'd class him as a mate. He's a really cool dude. I really get on.
He's an utter gent, isn't he? I've only met him once. What a gent!
He's just mint. Yeah, he's just mint. So I think them 3 at the table while having dinner would be a good laugh.
Oh yeah, that sounds like it's going to be a good night. Anyway, definitely.
Yeah, definitely a good night.
On my trip, I was heading back. I'd come up through Mexico and I was heading back across the States, and I was going through Texas, and a mutual friend happened to tweet Colin Edwards just out of the blue and basically said, "Oh, I've got a mate that's he's doing this trip on a superbike, and he's coming through Texas." And Colin Edwards was out in Sepang, and he said, "Oh yeah, just drop by the ranch. I'll let them cut. You're coming." So about a week, 2 weeks later, I'm coming through that part of Texas, and I thought, why not? So I tweeted Colin Edwards, and I just said, I'm coming through now at this time. I'll be there in like a day, and he just texted me his address. And he says, pop by. I'll let him know you're coming. So I turned up just thinking, I'll get to the ranch because he's out in Sepang testing. And I thought, I'll do this. Well, I arrived and they got the beers out and, all the bikes to play. You know what it's like there. And next thing, this big flatbed truck arrived and it's Colin Edwards. He'd flown back from Sepang. It was mint. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. So, yeah, the steaks went on the barbie and the beer flowed.
It's just cool. Yeah. It's just a cool place. Yeah. It's like, that's another bucket list. Obviously, I've done it, but if you've not been, or if anyone who's listening has not been to the Texas Tornado Boot Camp, you've got to do it. It's such a cool place to go, and you can go whether you're a beginner, experienced, intermediate. It doesn't make any difference. The instructors are really, really cool there, and you'll get to learn how to slide a bike properly. In a very safe environment at low speed. You don't need a lot of speed to be able to have bike control, and it's a cool place, and you'll just have a lot of fun doing it.
You've got a really good video on your YouTube channel from it with the drones all flying there mixed with your head cam.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. So I'll put a link to the vid up there. So check that out, and obviously give Pete a subscribe over on his channel as well. Yeah, quality place, that quality. Who's that? It was a motorbike tourer. Rod the Rider. When you go to race, what's your mindset? I think we've already covered this. Do you think you can win every time, or do you just go as good as you possibly can? I think we've sort of touched on that.
Yeah, I mean, you always go as good as you possibly can. I think normally you have a pretty good idea, especially if you're a realist. You'll certainly have a good idea of where roughly you should end up and whether you've got a chance of winning it or not. Of course, as soon as the lights go out, you're trying to win. Of course you are, but you kind of know before the lights go out what's roughly what's going to happen. So yeah, I'm pretty chilled out on the grid. You'll kind of see a lot of the time. I'm laughing and joking and messing about. So it's a lot of riders are very focused and very kind of, you can't talk to them. You can't. I had a teammate once. So something happened in race 1. We didn't talk about it in race 2. It was nothing. He didn't do anything wrong. He dug his knee in the dirt and chucked a load of dirt literally all over me. I had to take a tear off. I just thought it was funny, It didn't bother me. I just kind of laughed about it. And on the next grid, I went up to him on the grid. I jumped off my bike, ran over and was like, "Oh, I've got a load of mud on me," and he literally blanked me like I didn't even exist, because he was he needed to be
so focused.
He needed to be in his zone. And I was like, don't worry about it. And he was, afterwards he was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I can't talk to anyone." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I didn't know that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered." But everyone's different.
Martin McDonald, what's the major setup differences on the bike, track and road?
Get asked that quite a bit.
I bet you do, yeah.
Not a lot.
No?
And that is the reaction I get every time.
Wow. I wouldn't have thought that.
They're nearly identical. So the bike that I actually raced last year, for example, did all year. I had one bike last year, that was it. In the Superbike class, so that did all BSBs, the Northwest, the TT, the Ulster, and Macau. One bike. And
I'd never have thought that.
It was set up not identical, but pretty damn close. There are only springs really that are slightly different, and that's even with different tires. We have to run Pirelli in the BSB Championship, whereas I choose to run Dunlops because you can run whatever you like on the roads. I choose to run Dunlops, and you'd think if you talk to a lot of people, they'll be like, "Oh, it's a massive setup change between Dunlops and Pirellis." Not particularly. There's a couple of little things we'll do, but we're talking minute little things. It's nothing major. Right. And we're probably one spring step softer on the roads than what we are at BSB, but that's it. We're talking we're running 10.5s in the front, we'll run 10.25. It's not a big change at all. It's very minute.
Wow, that's surprising. Wow. Mike Sandham, out of any of the road racing you've done, what's your luckiest avoidance of an off?
I've had a couple, and I've also been down the road. The first one I ever had was in year 2 at the TT.
Yeah.
On the final lap of the senior race, just before the 33rd, flat out in top gear. And I'm still, even to this day, a little bit like, I don't feel like I did anything wrong. But I think when I crossed the road before you come to it, there's kind of a left kink through, and then you go through a right kink before you brake, go down 2 gears, back to 4th, and then into the 33rd. So when I was crossing the road from the left back over to the right to set myself up, I just started to, I only used one finger brake because you're not really hard braking, you're just kind of just scrubbing some speed off there. And as I went for the brake, I think I was on the crown of the road, so right on the white line as it went up over the top, and there's obviously no grip there, and the wind was coming from the right, I think. So as I all that combination meant that as I just wanted to slow the front brake down, it just locked. And I basically closed the front in top gear. But
Jesus.
I just rolled and just touched it, and it just went, and I managed to let go, and it just kind of sorted itself out. And then I had to brake quite hard because obviously I was going in a bit deep.
Yeah.
When you lose the front as well, it obviously stopped turning. It just went straight. So then I was heading to the bank on the left. So that was my first time that I thought, oh dear, that wasn't very good.
Proper 5p, 50p moment there.
Yeah, it was a little bit. Funnily enough, I spoke to McGuinness after the race, and that was the race that he won in 2015, the senior, when he was on the Honda. And I asked him about it because I'm quite open with stuff like that. So I kind of went to him and I said, I had a really weird experience. And he had a very similar experience on that last lap, in exactly the same spot. And he had the same kind of thought of me of, I think the wind was across, and maybe it was across the top of just on the crown of the road, which just took the weight off the front of the bike. So that was the first one. The second one was the year after, which was also at the TT. I touched and in the senior for some reason, I don't know why, but anyway, I touched my right shoulder on the bank at Bishop's Court, again in top gear. Not ideal, because it kind of rips you off the back of the bike. I managed to actually keep hold of the handlebars, and I didn't hit it too hard that I did pull myself off the back of the bike. I just kind of brushed it and managed to carry on through it.
In top gear? Yeah,
in top gear, yeah. There's not a lot of room to get things wrong in top gear.
What's that? What are you doing there? About 180, 190 plus?
Yeah, 175 to 180ish. I would have thought in top gear. Yeah, it's pretty fast.
Just brush the wall, as you do. Just brush the wall.
Yeah, no, wasn't ideal. I think. I don't want to say I'm going to touch wood again, but I think that's probably. Yeah, I've not had too many. My first year, I crashed twice in my first year. The first one was the Ulster. I crashed it at Wheelers, which was really fast, third gear. But actually, I wasn't not concentrating. I was trying to go slower. I got really fast in my first day. I was already the fastest ever newcomer at the TT. I was the fastest newcomer at the Northwest. I went to the Ulster Grand Prix. On day one, I averaged over 130 mile an hour on day one. Obviously never been there before. So my second day out was my first lap out on my second day on the Thursday. And I was literally in my head, I was going, just chill out. You've gone fast already. Just calm yourself down. Don't be too stupid. Well, the Ulster's really fast. Most of it's top gear. Most of it's pretty much pinned. But you get so complacent with the speed. Because you're doing it all the time. It doesn't feel like you're doing 180, 190 mile an hour. And on the run up to Wheelers, you go through a place called Pullett's Gate, which is pinned in top gear. It's about 180, 90 mile an hour right-hander. I'd gone through there and I was braking, but I wasn't braking hard enough. I was only kind of just touching the brake and going down the gears, thinking, no, just chill out. Yeah. Don't go too hard, don't go too fast. And I just didn't pull the brake hard enough. And because of that, I ran into Wheelers too hard and too fast. And kind of as I turned in, I was like, oh shit, I'm doing like 30 mile an hour more than what I should be doing. So I'd just not pulled the brake hard enough. So I grabbed as much brake as I dared and threw it in anyway, obviously, because there's no room to just do anything else. And I nearly made the corner, and I just clipped the grass verge on the exit and took the front, obviously, and went off into the field. And I was fine. I bent my finger back, but I was absolutely fine.
Jesus, well, that's all you had was the dodgy finger.
Yeah, I just bent my finger back. So I rode later in the day. I raced later in the day and won the Duns Road 150 race. But I went to borrow forks and triple clamps, and because I bent all the front end of the bike. And actually, funnily enough, the bike actually turned. The BMs are always renowned, especially them BMs were renowned that year, kind of 12, 13, 14, for not turning very well. Even the later bike I rode wasn't the best at finishing a corner. They would turn in good, but they wouldn't finish the corner. But since that crash, it turned a lot better. I think I actually bent the headstock. So it actually tweaked the headstock in, so I had a bit more angle. So even though it was a stocker, it was actually turning a lot better after I'd tweaked it.
So that's your first mod from now on, is it?
Yeah, it was the first mod running into a wall somewhere.
I appreciate the time here, so I'll start to wind this up if that's Thank you very much. It's nearly 2 hours you've been on here, so appreciate that. Tom Watts, his question: racing the Isle of Man and travelling the world solo on a superbike. Oh, okay, sorry, this is about me. Racing the Isle of Man and travelling the world solo on a superbike takes some balls to do. What would Peter experience what Bruce has done, and would Bruce experience the TT? I.e., would you look at doing the round the world type travel on a bike?
It's not something I've thought of, if I'm honest. That wouldn't mean that I wouldn't do it though. I could see the appeal to it, definitely. I think it would be quite an experience. I'm sure you can enlighten me on that a bit more, but I would say that was pretty cool to go and do something like that.
I mean, it absolutely changed. It just changed my life. Totally changed my life. Absolutely. But I didn't ride a bike until, God, how old was I when 32? was when I passed my bike test. So I passed my bike test to do that trip.
Right.
So I passed it. So
Learning
there's a
on
bit
the
of a back. What's that?
Learning on the job.
Well, kind of. Yeah, kind of. There's a bit of a long story, so I'll be as concise as I possibly can. Saw a long way round, thought I want to do that, but I didn't ride a bike. I had a job, couldn't afford it, all the normal spiel, normal reasons why. Then my mum sadly was losing her battle with cancer. She was living with me at the time. Long Way Round came back on the TV. I started to moan and say I would love to do that. And she just turned around and said, don't get to my stage where you face the end and you regret what you've not done in life. Look after those that you love, but live your life.
Yeah.
And that was it. I literally booked my direct access there and then on the computer. And by the time I passed the test, Mum had gone to a local hospice because she didn't want to pass away in my flat. So, I passed the test, shook the keys to my jigsaw and said, I've done it, I've passed. So she made me promise that I would do the trip. And she sort of passed away 5-6 days later. So that was it. So literally, I gave myself 3 years to save up and plan, and I left on her birthday in 2012.
Oh, mega.
And that was it. Yeah, then came back about a year and a half later. Yeah.
Year and a half.
If it's anything, I appreciate you've got a lot of commitments and you can't do something like that at the moment. But later in life, if it's something that at all is there, I couldn't recommend it enough.
Yeah. I'll definitely look at doing something like that later on.
Yeah. And he's asked, would I experience a TT? Well, apart from trundling round it on my own bike, it's never going to happen, is it? It's never going to happen. But my overriding memory of doing the TT circuit was I did the Simon Andrews Memorial lap the first year. And I'm on my jigsaw and it's all packed up. I've still got my tent and everything bungeed on the front from the trip because I hadn't got home yet. And I remember going over the mountain section. I remember looking down. I was doing about 150 over the mountain, and the tent's coming up into my face because it's all stretching on the bungee cords. And that's my overriding memory, is overtaking people with this tent coming into my face. Yeah, what a place. Right, let's try one more then. Let's look for a good one. Peter McQueenie. He's asking, after a race, what do you do the very next day?
Bugger all. Depending on the race, not a lot usually. Depends, but most of the time I'll be chilling out and just kind of relaxing. A race weekend, a BSB race weekend really takes it out of you. It kind of it's physical, it's mentally draining. It's a tough weekend, and two races, especially somewhere like, say, Alton Park or, somewhere where there's no rest, them bikes are hard to throw around for a 20-lap race. So to do two of them in one day is hard work. So it definitely takes it out of you. So I normally like to have a good chill. Just chill. Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's weird because bikes I appreciate are your life, but you don't ride on the road. So it's like, it's just for the track or the road racing, and then boom, that's that. So what do you do to chill out? What's the sort of hobby for you? I don't really have a lot of hobbies particularly. It's more of riding bikes. I've got a flat tracker. I've got a couple of different flat trackers. I've obviously got my Ovalis and stuff. And I've obviously got a lot of other things going on now, but I'm relaxed anyway. I'm sure you can tell from the time we've been speaking. I'm like this all the time. I'm like this if I'm on the grid before a race. I'm absolutely no different. So I don't struggle to chill out. I just, I'd probably literally just not do a lot. Cool. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it at that then, Peter. Thank you so much, mate, for coming on. I really do appreciate you taking the time out your night to come and have a chat. Not a problem at all. Thank you for having me on. No, my pleasure. And massive shout out to Harley at Holeshot for organising this. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Folks, like I said, Peter has a YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out. He's got some cracking onboards on there and all sorts of stuff. Check out that vid of Colin Edwards boot camp as well. It looks a lot of fun. Peter, before we go, is there any shout outs you'd like to make at all? Not particularly, no. I'm not a shout out kind of person, but everyone who knows me know who they are, so hello to you guys. And just hello to all the fans. Hope you're all keeping safe, staying well, and hope to see you soon, hopefully at the circuit. Fantastic. Well, we wish you all the very best, and
Yeah, mate, it's been awesome to have a good chat with you, and really do appreciate it. Look after yourself and stay safe.
Thank you, mate.
Folks, hope you've all enjoyed it. Keep on keeping on. Look after yourselves. We're nearly out of this. I can taste the freedom. It's nearly there. So as always, folks, make sure you smash the subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell. Look after those that you love. But most importantly, live your life. Ooh-ha.